Hello, it's Celeste of Astrology by Celeste. Now I'm in a hotel room, so I'm in Borrego Springs, California, and I spoke for the Astro Bash conference. So it was a delight. This is an evolutionary astrology conference, but Dianne Feinstein, we found out that she died today. And the astrology explains the timing of the events of her passing away. And because she's a United States Senator and the Senate is almost evenly divided, this is a huge deal for the United States that she has passed away. So I want to share the charts. So condolences to her family and loved ones. And, she did do a lot of service for the country, even though, don't get me started about Pluto and Capricorn at the last degrees of Capricorn, bringing to light that because Pluto unearths things and exposes things to be looked at. And powerful people, Pluto and Capricorn government, who are Capricorn also rules the elderly. The fact that we have all of these old people in these positions of power making important decisions. And she has been in extremely poor health for quite a while. It's been rumored that she has had trouble for years staying awake and alert. And it's a real concern. And it'll be really interesting to see what happens with the next election because like Pluto is going to go into Aquarius, and I don't know if people are going to be bringing forth people who are younger and more representative of people with understanding what people are going through now, or if we'll just have another octogenarian president or just about octogenarian. We'll see what happens. Anyway, this is Dianne Feinstein's natal chart. So she is a Cancer sun, and her sun is on the world point of 0 degrees of Cancer. And the United States is a Cancer. So you will see people with a lot of, like with Cancer stelliums and whatnot, that are find rise to power and fame in the United States. She also has Pluto on a world point. Yeah, so the world points are 0 and 22 and a half of cardinal signs, 15 degrees of fixed signs, and 7.5 of mutable signs, and Cancer is a cardinal sign. And so when people have planets or placements like their angles on world points, it can suggest that they rise to prominence in some way. And being that her stellium's in Cancer, this can speak to her being a powerful person in the United States who has a lot of visibility, sun, and power, Pluto. And her Saturn's on a world point in her 11th house, literally a leader, Saturn, an authority of a group, organization, Congress. And yeah, and you can see, and she didn't want to give up that authority. Saturn retrograde. No, she did not. Yeah. And her Saturn is at the tip of a yod. So you can see her Venus in Cancer at the base, and one side, and her Jupiter in Virgo on the other side. So interesting. Yeah. So you've been pointed at, a yod is like the finger of God. She's been pointed at to basically serve for the homeland and be a woman representing issues around. I mean, she talked a lot around women's issues and stuff. So very interesting. And this Saturn retrograde and the 11th house, like in a mundane chart, rules things like organizations like Congress and parliaments and all of that. Yeah, and her Saturn rules her chart. Her Saturn rules her midheaven, so her career point. So it's like she's been pointed at to have an important career where she leads a lot of people, and has an authority over them. So that's just in her natal chart. Yeah. Okay. And then let's look at her with, so everything is seated at the new moon. So this month we had a new moon at 21 degrees of Virgo. And the new moon was on her Mars. Mars in her sixth house of things that go wrong with our health. And yeah, her health has been very poor. And Mercury station. So this is the connection. I thought it might be Jimmy Carter passing away, but his baby's going to just live forever. But because he has his son at 21 Virgo. So I knew there would be a story around this Mercury retrograde, because Mercury stationed to go retrograde at 21 Virgo, went back to 8 Virgo, and then went direct. And actually, as I'm recording of this, it's like out of its shadow. You'll see at the full moon, Mercury is there. Anyway, so the new moon was at the same degree about this Mercury retrograde. So we knew there was like a big story about it. Now we know when Mercury went direct, the United Auto Workers went on strike. Virgo is a sign associated with the people who serve, who do the work. So that is not surprising. Yeah. But anyway, let me stick and try not to go on too many tangents. Okay, so there was a new moon on her Mars in her sixth house of things that go wrong with your health, as well as Mars rules her eighth house, because Mars is the ruler of Scorpio, and the eighth house is a house of many things, but death being, being one of them. And there was a new moon. So the moon as well on her Mars, the moon rules her fourth house. And the fourth house is the end of the matter or the grave, essentially. Yes. So we can see that, and we can see Saturn in the sky, and Saturn is the Grim Reaper, and Saturn is on her north node. It's 2 degrees off at this point, but this is before she died, but trining her sun, her vitality, her essence. So you can see in the chart, the new moon on her eighth house ruler in her house of things that go wrong with her health. And you can see at the new moon, Mercury on her Neptune. Neptune dissolves. Neptune dissolves. So, her health was dissolving very, on its way dissolving. And you can see Venus in the sky was also opposite her Saturn. Venus opposite her Saturn. Venus rules her second house and her seventh house. That's interesting. In terms of second house has some things to do with the body, like the neck or the throat, or I don't know what if there was anything, if that's about the power struggle. She was involved with a lawsuit around her husband's estate or something about finances. So she was fighting authority for finances. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, Venus squaring her Jupiter. Yeah. Also, brings that to mind. Venus squaring her Jupiter. She and her daughter. She gave her daughter power of attorney, and her daughter was doing something around. They were trying to sue her dead husband's estate or something like that. You can Google it. Apologies if I've mangled that. So that was the new moon that seeded the cycle. And at the full moon, all is revealed. And you can see at this full moon, the sun was on her vertex. And the vertex is you've encountered. And she has the vertex in the sixth house of things that go wrong with your health. So she encountered bad health. And one thing I didn't say was that new moon on her Mars square moon. So the new moon squared her moon as well. That's of note, because the moon is our environment. It also speaks to our physical body, and it's Mars rules our house of death, and the moon rules her house of the grave, and the new moon activated both of them. And we tend to see that when people pass on. We also tend to see when people die, there tend to be having a Jupiter or a Neptune transit, most commonly we see. And you can see Jupiter in the sky was in a sextile with her Saturn, that, the Grim Reaper or what have you. Jupiter sends you on a long journey. You can see Chiron in her first house. That's often a time when, like older people, it can be a time indicating Chiron's the wounded healer, that you're having some physical problems. The first house is the house of vitality. The sixth house is the house of illness. So Chiron in your first house of vitality can be indication of like you have some kind of health issue or something that's dampening your vitality. You can see now she died, all is illuminated at the full moon. She's an Aries rising and she died at an Aries full moon. You can see Saturn's on her north node. And the north node speaks to, it has relations with our physical body as well as our career. So this is, yeah, it is pretty easy to understand. Okay, and Mercury is on her Mars. You can see that Mercury's moved back to her Mars. Announcement of her eighth house death. Mercury announces Mars rules her eighth house for death, squaring her moon. Yeah. Okay. Did I want to say anything else about her? I guess that gives, that gives you the picture. Oh, and you can see Mars has moved from the new moon. Mars was now her Mars is trining her natal moon, and that rules her house of death. Yeah. So I mean, she's 90 years old, so it's not as though it's a tragedy or anything. It's just sad for her family. And yeah, but she has quite a legacy. Anyway, I think I talked about her on the podcast before. The Celestial Insights podcast is available wherever you listen. Now, Gavin Newsom, I said there would be big news about him this full moon, because that there was going to be some story about him this full moon, and he has been traveling a lot, and for like making the arguments for the next, for Biden to be reelected, and being a Democratic surrogate for the Democratic Party. And you can see here that this new moon at 21 Virgo, that happened on September 14th, the day before Mercury went direct, was on his ascendant, his 21-degree Virgo ascendant. So we knew something was being seeded that was important about him. Also conjunct his Pluto, so about his power. So he's been going around, like auditioning himself for the rest of the country. Some people think he may want to, you know, move Biden aside. I mean, the Democratic Party, nobody's excited about Biden being president again except Joe Biden. So we'll see if people can talk him into stepping down, because and this new moon for Gavin on his ascendant square his midheaven, his career, and his ice and his Mars, him taking action. Yeah, his Mars in Sagittarius. He's been flying all over the country presenting the case for the Democratic Party. But now, because he is the governor of California, the fact that Dianne Feinstein died is a big deal. He has promised he would put a African American woman, replace her with an African American woman, and there are people running for Senate. So 3 people: Barbara Lee, Adam Schiff, and Katie Porter. So putting Barbara Lee in there, who's a Black woman, would not be fair, because the primary is going to start very soon. So it'll be interesting to see. I wonder if it'll be Karen Bass. It'll be interesting to see who he picks for the senator to take Dianne Feinstein's place for the next year, because elections are coming next fall. Anyway, he's having a nodal return is something that jumps out about his chart for me. And anything else about the new moon? Trine Uranus. So yeah. He did a lot of travel, ninth house, long distance travel. That's all I'm going to say about that. No need to belabor the point. But the United States, oh, let's look at him in the full moon, see if how it's activating his chart. Because he's got to pick someone very quickly. This Mercury is on his ascendant. So people are anxiously waiting to hear what decision Mercury decides he's making about this shocking, unexpected issue. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. And the decision he makes could have big implications for his future as well as California. And you can see the moon. So the rules the 11th house on his Saturn. So Saturn, like he's got to pick someone for the 11th house organization, the Senate. And probably in 2 days we'll know, I would think, who it's going to be. We'll see. I don't know if he would take longer than that. Yeah. Interesting. And we can look at the United States chart with the new moon as well. So, yeah. Yeah. So for the United States, this new moon is on the Neptune of the United States. Now it's in the ninth house. Ninth house rules legal affairs. I forget what committee Dianne Feinstein is on. It's really, So new moon on Neptune. There's this loss, squaring Mars, which rules the 12th house, fourth house. Well, this new moon has to do with a lot of stuff on Neptune. So I wonder, we're facing potentially a government shutdown and all sorts of things going on. The United States is in the Pluto return, Pluto in the second house of finances. Mercury was stationing at the new moon, like just about to go direct. So we'll see what happens if these people will come to an agreement and keep the government running, or they'll just let us, yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting because you can see Mercury was square Uranus. So that speaks to the Mercury square Uranus. Mercury rules cars, square Uranus strike. The United Auto Workers went on a strike. We see that. But we also see the broadcasters, the writers for Hollywood negotiated a settlement for their strike. So there was a lot of strike news about this. The South Node is, with the 5-degree rule, the South Node essentially is in the 11th house. It's putting its energy on the 11th house. The South Node is a drain. And you can think about the fact that, yeah, we lost a senator, and it's with Mars on Saturn. So like Mars attacks, and this speaks to the impeachment. The 10th house is a house of the president, ruler, whoever, the executive function. And you can see like they're doing some hearings about trying to find evidence to impeach Joe Biden. So we can see Mars, the rules the fourth house of the opposing party, so the Republicans, is conjunct Saturn, which rules the leader and the executive function and the government in general. So I wonder, it's going to be a mess if these people let the government shut down. Really awful. So you can see at the full moon, the sun is in the 10th house of the government and leadership and all of that stuff, opposite the moon. And a big story today was also about how the Republican Party in Congress is just a mess. They can't even come up with a bill themselves that they want to try to pass for keeping the government open. You can see the South Node is still putting its emphasis on the 11th house of Congress. And Mercury on Neptune, the announcement of, us losing the senator. Sextile, 12th house of, you can see Mercury trine Uranus. Oh, that makes me, Mercury trine Uranus makes me think about the fact that LaGuardia Airport was flooded. At the new moon too, that Mercury square Uranus. Mercury rules transportation from the ninth house, square Uranus, like shocking, chaotic event because of rainstorms in and Mercury's on Neptune of the United States now. Rainstorms on the East Coast. We have LaGuardia shut down. So anyway, yeah. I think that's all I wanted to say. I think the key points. Oh, and Joe Biden. So Joe Biden, his midheaven is at 22. This is rectified by Carol Tebbs, 22 Virgo. So the new moon was on his midheaven. And they said they were going to, go after him around this impeachment stuff. And this full moon, the full moon, just quickly. The full moon, yeah. The South Node, Mars in his 11th house, like he's got to, the Democratic Party, the Senate they are his resources, his allies, and now he's got this problem with her death that he's dealing with. Yeah, his Saturn's on his South Node in the 3rd house. Interesting. Yeah, Saturn on his South Node. Maybe this is about the loss of the South Node rules communication, a loss of a voice. Also, all these polls, he's getting all these negative polls. People are voicing their dislike and whatnot with him. And you can see Saturn squaring his Uranus. So Saturn, like his authority is square Uranus, broken in some ways because of balance of power. It's a big deal that she has died because there's, the Senate is basically 50-50. So anyway, that's enough. I hope that helps. We also found out about Tupac. Did I open his? It's too much to talk about Tupac too. So anyway, I hope you found this useful. I'm going to be doing a workshop for the solar eclipse that's coming up. The solar eclipse is on October 14th, and it's in the sign of Libra, the sign of relationships, the first solar eclipse in Libra in 9 years, and the first South Node solar eclipse in 19 years. So this cycle is repeating from about 18, 19 years ago. So there could be stories that have a rhyme or a rhythm with what was going on in your life back then. But anyway, if you want to come to the workshop, I will talk about the chart, what it means for you personally based on sign, and as well as what it could mean for the collective. And then I do as many astrology hot take readings for the participants as I can. So you bring your birth time if you want a hot take reading. So you can register and purchase your ticket at the link in my bio or go to astrologybyceleste.com. If you want to know what energies are coming in for you with the eclipse, you can just book an astrology reading. And I have the ability to do like a video, or we can meet for a half hour if you just want a quickie, or an hour reading, or a reading an hour and a half that includes a oracle or tarot card spread. So these are the ways you can work with me, as well as more. Oh, and I'm teaching my Foundations of Astrology class. I should have said that at the beginning. starting on October 28th, but I'll be back to talk about that. So anyway, take good care. Happy full moon, and watch out for impulsivity, and don't get in unnecessary arguments with people because emotions may be running high, and people, Mars, which rules the Aries moon, is in the sign of Libra, the sign of its fall. So yeah, it's like a lot of like domestic violence or domestic conflict issues are going to be coming up. So take good care of yourself. And okay, let me know, put any questions in the comments, or you can email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com.